Al-Kalawa had fallen. The walls were broken. The rulers of Gobir were gone. But this was not the end of the war. It was the moment West Africa changed forever. For most rebels, this would be the end of the journey, the moment of victory. But for Usman Dan Fodio and his cavalry, this was merely day one. Over the next 30 years, they would build the largest empire in 19th century Africa, a domain of 30 emirates, spanning 1 million square kilometers. How did a group of scholars and nomads topple ancient kingdoms and rewrite the map of a continent? Welcome to Echoes of Reborn Africa. In this second part, we go deep into the expansion of the empire. Now please subscribe and share. Don't forget to comment, it's very important to me. Stay tuned, because we're diving into the secret military rivet system that made them invincible. After Al-Kalawa, the jihad wasn't just a holy war, it was a management crisis. Dan Fodio did something radical. He retired. The man who ignited the revolution chose not to rule as a king. Instead, he became the spiritual heart of a growing state. This was no longer just a jihad. It was the birth of government. He split the world in two. To the west, his brother Abdullahi Iwandu. To the east, his son Muhammad Bello in SOKOTO. SOKOTO did not try to rule everything from one throne. Instead, it created a system. When a city fell, a loyal emir was appointed. That emir governed locally, but answered to SOKOTO. Instead of just killing kings, they replaced them with emirs, governors. This ensured that as soon as a city fell, it started paying taxes and providing soldiers for the end. EXT war. Religion unified the state. Law maintained order, and loyalty flowed upward. This network allowed SOKOTO to expand faster than any empire being. Euphoric. The SOKOTO expansion wasn't a walkway. In the east lay the Bornu Empire, a 1,000-year-old dynasty. In 1808, SOKOTO forces burned the Bornu capital to the ground. But then, a new hero emerged for the enemy, Al-Kalawa. Letter of War from 1808-1820s was a high-stakes diplomatic and theological battle between the SOKOTO Caliphate, represented by Usman Dan Fodio and his son Muhammad Bello, and the Bornu Empire, defended by the scholar warlord Muhammad Alamin Al-Kanemi. While their armies clashed on the ground, their quills fought an ideological war that questioned the very legitimacy of the jihad. The SOKOTO leaders justified their attacks on Bornu by claiming the state had fallen into apostasy. Al-Kanemi, a brilliant scholar from the Kanem region, fought back with logic that nearly derailed SOKOTO's ideological momentum. He reminded SOKOTO that Bornu had been an Islamic state for over 800 years, long before Dan Fodio was born. Al-Kanemi argued that even if Bornu's rulers were guilty of corruption, bribery, or syncretism, these were sins, not acts of unbelief, that justified a holy war. He famously pointed out that such sins existed in every Islamic capital, from Cairo to Damascus. Yet no one declared jihad against them. That he used the destruction of the scholarly town of Yandoto by SOKOTO forces as evidence that the jihad was more about political power than religious reform, accusing them of turning against Muslim scholarship itself. Muhammad Bello responded by doubling down on the legal obligation to reform Dar al-Harb versus Dar al-Islam. He argued that a country's status is determined by its leader. If the Sultan of Bornu assisted pagans, he legally became one of them, making Bornu Dar al-Harb a land of war. Bello maintained that true Islam required total adherence to the Sharia, and that liberal interpretations, which Al-Kanemi advocated, were merely excuses for backsliding. The debate was so sophisticated that even Abdullahi Dan Fodio, Usman's brother and second-in-command, eventually admitted that Al-Kanemi's legal arguments were superior, reportedly supporting Bornu's position over that of his own state in certain juristic matters. Ultimately, this letter war prevented a total military conquest. Both sides recognized each other's scholarly standing, eventually leading to a fragile diplomatic peace and the recognition of international laws that protected travelers and pilgrims between the two empires. Remember, this diplomacy is happening in the 19th century, and the white man had not come. But in the context of the SOKOTO Caliphate, a ribbit was a fortified frontier settlement that served as a military, religious, and economic anchor for the empire. While the term historically referred to small frontier outposts in early Islamic history, Muhammad Bello, the second sultan, transformed the ribbit into a large-scale urbanization and stabilization policy. With all the requirements of an urban town and planning, this should really excite listeners who are always with image that African were savages who didn't go school and knew nothing at all. Africans started planning their towns before the Europeans came. There were great flourishing towns before the Europeans came. These walled towns, known as Bahrain and Hausa, were sited at territorial boundaries to guard against external raids and serve as staging points for offensive military expeditions. Ribbats functioned as schools where scholars taught Islamic law and disseminated knowledge, strengthening the intellectual authority of the Caliphate. Muhammad Bello promoted the idea that humans are urban by nature, using the ribbit to convert wilderness into organized Muslim communities aligned with the Qibla, the direction of Mecca. Plantation economy. Ribbats encouraged the development of vast slave labor plantations, Rinji. Large tracts of land were allotted to the elite, who used slave labor to provide food for the cities and goods for trade, cultural integration. These settlements served as a melting pot for diverse ethnic groups. They notably helped ostracize the nomadic Fulani herders, settling them into a shared urban house of Fulani culture. Trade protection. By securing the frontiers and agricultural hinterlands, the Ribbats ensured safe passage for caravans and stimulated regional commerce. West of Gobir, the House estates were already weakened. Zamfara, Kebbi, Nup lands. Many rulers surrendered without a fight. Others were replaced by leaders who welcomed the new order. For many communities, Sokoto did not arrive as conquest, but as reform. The southern collapse, Oyo and Ilori. While the east was a stalemate, the south was a landslide. The mighty Oyo Empire was rotting from within. When a rebellious general named Fanja invited Sokoto-backed scholars into the city of Ilori, he thought he was hiring mercenaries. He was actually inviting the end of his world. While the Sokoto Caliphate's military was legendary for its dominance on the open savanna, its expansion into the southern forest regions, such as Yorubaland and the Nup Kingdom, forced a shift from pure shock cavalry to a more integrated, auxiliary-heavy approach. The adaptation was not a simple change of equipment, but a strategic evolution in how they utilized geograph. Y and allies, from exile in Gudu to the fall of Al-Kalawa, to an empire that reshaped history. At its height, the Sokoto Caliphate stretched across lands that today lie in Nigeria, Niger, Cameroon, and Burkina Faso. The largest state in pre-colonial West Africa.